Reduce, reuse, recycle, reconsider, reimagine. Reimagine Phoenix, transforming trash into resources.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Reimagine Phoenix. I'm your host, Yvette Roeder. Today we're at the beautiful Desert Botanical Garden, talking about the garden's many sustainable practices and its commitment to waste diversion. In this episode, we will talk to the Botanical Garden's Kimberly McHugh, who will explain how the garden stays sustainable and its commitment to conservation. Then we'll take you to Gertrude's, a wonderful restaurant located in the Desert Botanical Garden itself. We'll chat with the restaurant's chef, Chef Matt Taylor, about using fresh, locally grown ingredients. But first, let's talk about food waste. Diverting food waste is such a challenge for the city of Phoenix, and let's face it, nationwide. But the city of Phoenix as an organization is taking its first steps to diverting food waste. Matt Hamada has the details.
Earlier this year, the City of Phoenix began a composting program in City Hall and other city buildings.
At City Hall, we're servicing all the floors. So we're servicing 20 all the way down to floor 2 and the coffee shop on floor 1. That's
J.D. Hill, co-owner of locally owned company Recycled City, who's contracted to collect food waste and other compostables from city facilities. J.D. believes in building urban farmland in food deserts with the help of locally produced compost. Recycled City already services many of the Valley's popular restaurants and local businesses, but the City of Phoenix is the company's first municipal customer.
Every time we collect at City Hall, we weigh all the materials and record it, and then send the numbers to the City of Phoenix.
And that number is important. It's one way for the city to monitor how the collection of food scraps and compostable materials are contributing to the citywide waste diversion goal of 40% by 2020. Collecting food scraps and composting can be hard work, but anyone that knows how composting works knows there's always one problem.
The number one complaint in home composting, office composting, is odor.
And that's why Recycled City uses a product called Bokashi.
Bokashi is a compost accelerant, and it's used to prevent odor and speed the composting process up.
And it's actually homemade.
We make our Bokashi from spent brewery waste. So we work with 4 local breweries. After this stuff is already made beer, we pick it up, we dry it, and then we inoculate it with a product called EM1. It's basically lactobacillus. And then that ferments with the grain, and then we package it and give it to everybody.
So city workers are encouraged to drop their food waste into the bins located on each floor of City Hall, also in the Calvin Good building and Fire Station 1. Recycled City regularly stops by and empties out the bins to be composted at a Phoenix urban garden. So what are people composting?
From our collections here at City Hall, we're finding a lot of coffee grounds and then a lot of compostable paper products such as to-go boxes, napkins is a huge compostable item we find here at City Hall.
And what about over at the fire station?
There, it's more of the traditional kitchen scraps because the guys there, they're making 3 meals a day, they're going through lots of food scraps, and all those food scraps are ending up into our compost collection.
So remember to not only recycle right, but compost your leftovers. Right now, the City of Phoenix is running a composting program inside Phoenix City Hall, the Calvin Good building, and Fire Station 1. Recycled City takes care of picking up the scraps, but where do they take them?
We're at the Orchard Community Learning Center. It's a 501c3 nonprofit in South Phoenix. So after we collect food waste from City Hall, we bring it to the Orchard Community Learning Center right here, and we transform the food waste into compost. And the compost is used to grow more food, and then the food goes back to our customers or farmers markets. The Orchard Community Learning Center is a vegetable farm and orchard. So there's a couple acres of seasonal vegetables and a couple acres of citrus, mainly navel and Valencia oranges. All the compost that we make is donated to the Orchard Community Learning Center to support their initiatives.
And while the process isn't super fast,
The typical cycle from food waste to compost is anywhere from 3 to 6 months.
it does have a lasting effect.
They use it to grow produce and then distribute the produce through farmers markets, direct market here, community exchange table.
And even commercial restaurants.
Our restaurant partners are able to purchase the produce, so it's a full circle, food waste, back to the farm, back to food onto people's plates.
But J.D. Hill with Recycled City says you don't have to be a government agency to get involved.
Recycled City has a compost collection plan for absolutely everyone. Single family homes, apartments, condos, restaurants, office buildings, schools, corporate cafeterias, anywhere where there's compostable materials, we have created a plan that's very convenient and easy to do.
The Desert Botanical Garden is one of Phoenix's points of pride, and rightfully so, as the home of thousands of desert plants and unique community events, and more importantly, an advocate for environmental conservation.
The mission of the garden is research, conservation, education, and exhibition of desert plants of the world with special emphasis on the Southwest. If you look around you in Phoenix, you see some great desert landscape. That includes the plants, of course. Back in 1939, our founders looked around and they saw what was happening with development in Phoenix area at that time, and a lot of the desert was being lost, and they said, we need to do something to counteract that.
And what they did was establish the garden that allows for research of desert plants and for learning the different aspects of conserving our natural resources.
We have over 3,000 different kinds of desert plants here at the garden. And a particularly interesting part of that is that we focus a lot on cactus. And so we have over 1,200 different kinds of cactus here in our garden. And that amazes so many people. When I walk the trails, so often I hear people saying, I had no idea there's so many kinds of cactus. There's so many different kinds of research that we do. We do everything from ecological research, so looking at how plants and their environment are interacting, to plant physiology, which is how plants internally are dealing with water and water stresses, which is a big thing here in the desert. We do a lot of what we call molecular work, so looking at the genetic level of plants. And we do that for conservation purposes. We do that for basic research purposes, just to identify what kind of plant is different from another kind of plant, because sometimes they look very similar, but deep down inside, they're really different.
In addition to research, what the garden does internally to be sustainable is just as important.
Part of my job is to act as the chair of what we call the Sustainability Initiatives Task Force. And that is a group that is looking at all of the different practices that we have here in the garden and how can we improve what we're doing and the way we do it so that we are more sustainable. And what that means ultimately is that if we are more sustainable here, that means that we're very smart in our use of resources. That we are ultimately going to have a positive impact on what's happening out in the wild desert spaces. Because, for example, if we can reduce the amount of material that we send to landfill, that means there's less need for landfill space. And the less landfill space required, there's more open desert habitat for plants and animals. And ultimately, that feeds into our conservation mission.
Composting is what you would expect the garden to do, and that's what's happening with a restaurant located in the Desert Botanical Garden called Gertrude's.
The whole composting program developed out of the desire of that group to see the garden and Gertrude's work together to make sure that, again, we're reducing the amount of material, including food waste, that goes into landfill. So we work together with Gertrude and Recycled City to come up with a way that we can take the food waste that comes out of Gertrude's, which, you know, in every restaurant is going to have some amount, and put it into composting. And that's something that doesn't go to landfill. And in fact, the way that our composting vendor works is that they take that food waste, they compost it, and then they're putting it into urban farming areas. So it's a really great, you know, circular win-win kind of situation. We're contributing to growing local food here in Phoenix.
So now that the weather has cooled down in the valley, make a point to visit the Desert Botanical Garden and check out all their fall and winter events.
There's always something really cool happening here at the garden, whether it's different events, our music series, our festivals, things like that. But on the sustainability side, so something that we are all very excited about here at the garden is we're going to have a major solar panel installation happening. It's going to be on the rooftop, so the visitor won't see what's on the roof, but to make sure that everybody knows what we're doing, we're creating a solar exhibit. And it will be in a tour gathering area that currently exists, but it will have solar panels on top, and we'll have interpretation there to let people know why we're investing in solar and what it means for the garden and our sustainability efforts, and what it means for, you know, our visitors. And hopefully, you know, people can think about what they can do too, because again, you know, every little bit helps. I think that's the biggest message that I would put out there. Never doubt that little things that you do contribute to the bigger whole. And if we're all doing our part, we're having a really great impact.
We're here today with Chef Matt Taylor of Gertrude's, who will be talking about look at all this stuff, some of the really cool fresh, locally grown produce that he uses for his cuisine. But first, let's get to know Matt Taylor. So, Chef, tell us a little bit about yourself. I heard that you're Canadian.
I am Canadian from Calgary, Alberta, so about 1,600 miles straight north of here.
And a little cooler.
A little bit cooler, just a touch.
Okay.
But I've been here for about 15 years off and on in Arizona.
Yeah.
Kind of bounced between here, was in New Orleans for a minute, most recently Vegas.
Yeah.
And then came back from there and been here at Gertrude's for about 2.5 years.
2.5 years. So when did you start cooking really, and why did you start? Was this a passion of yours, or was this something that you stumbled upon?
You know, I've always enjoyed it, like
Yeah.
cooking at home, and kind of grew up, my parents both, you know, my mom had to leave home when we were young to go to work, and I ended up being, my brother worked and I cooked, was kind of the deal. And then once I was old enough to work, 14, 15, I started working as a dishwasher where my brother was a server.
Yeah.
And then just kind of worked my way up from there.
You got to start somewhere.
Exactly. So it just, my only job I ever had has been in the kitchen. So.
Really?
So.
Interesting. So no like greeter at Walmart for you or anything like
No,
that?
I mean, I had a short stint
Okay.
working at a friend's gas station, and that's about as different as it's got.
it gets?
So
Cool.
as exciting as I've been. So.
Okay. Now, you were mentioning earlier when we were talking, you had worked with some really like hotshots in the cuisine world, in the cooking world. So tell us a little bit about who you've worked with in the past.
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate to work with some really great people.
Yeah.
I mean, locally I got to work with Deborah Knight in Mosaic up in North Scottsdale, which was an amazing experience. Had about 4 or 5 years with Bradford Thompson at Mary Elaine's, which was awesome.
One of those awesome restaurants, yeah.
And just a quick stint with John Besh down in New Orleans. And I came back and did a couple different projects with Robert McGrath over the past few years. And then I was with Michael Mina in Las Vegas for about 4 years. So.
Now that you're here at Gertrude's, and you say you've been here for almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years, yeah, in
Okay.
March.
So, and I don't know if this is your first foray with Southwestern cuisine, but tell me what your vision is as far as, you know, the menus for Gertrude's is. What are you looking for when you plan your menus?
It's kind of funny you bring up the Southwestern thing, because since I've been here, the menus have actually kind of not had a heavy Southwestern influence.
Yeah.
Apart from like the ingredients that we can find
Absolutely.
here. But the menu that we're starting next month definitely focuses a little bit more on Arizona culture and stuff that's indigenous to here, like this beautiful red and blue pozole and yellow garbanzos from Ramona's farm down the street.
So I didn't realize that this this is all in the pozole. Is it it's corn family?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So again, this is pozole.
This is garbanzo.
Garbanzo, I'm
and then
sorry.
these two are pozole.
Pozole. Okay, so that's blue corn, red corn. It's amazing colors. Amazing
Yeah, aren't they
colors.
beautiful?
Yeah.
And we treat them with lye, and then make them edible for when we make like a smoked pork pozole or
Yeah.
in some of our different side dishes. We use a little bit in a crab salad right now.
Cool.
But it definitely lends a nice texture, obviously the visual appeal.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and the flavor is phenomenal, is the most important thing.
It's almost patriotic.
It is, totally.
And then this one, I was like, my eyes grew big when I saw this one. Like,
Yeah.
what is this?
Yeah, Carl Seacat brought these
Okay.
down from Flagstaff the other day.
Wow.
He was foraging and was pretty fortunate with the weather we've had lately
Yeah.
up there. It's just been just right for mushrooms to start bolting out of the ground.
So what do we call this?
These are lobster mushrooms.
And they do look like lobsters.
And they look, because they have that red color that lobsters get after we cook them.
Yeah.
And then we basically, I mean, we said it before, you hear lots of portobellos. We treat them like meat. Great for like smoking or putting on the grill.
Yeah.
We even put them through the meat grinder and treat them like almost like ground beef and make bolognese.
Uh-huh.
We do like a cavatelli pasta with lobster mushroom bolognese and black truffles, which is super delicious and great fall dish.
Okay, and
some lovely radishes.
Radishes.
From up in Paulden that we use in many different ways. Sometimes we just roast them, serve them with a little sea salt and butter. Great for salads, of course. Pickling. We do quite a bit of pickling here. Then we also have some olive oils. We eat some specialty
salads for your salad dressing and all that?
Yeah, exactly.
Cooking, okay.
So when I think about fall, though, I definitely think about stuff like mushrooms, root vegetables for sure, big hearty lettuces, bitter lettuces, definitely things that maybe take a little bit longer to cook, that aren't quite as light. Definitely things with a lot more depth and building of flavors.
So, Chef, this show is all about sustainability and waste diversion. And so I know that Gertrude's has a program going on where, food waste is a challenge for Arizona, for Phoenix, of course, but Arizona in general. But what is Gertrude's doing? And I know you guys have a really neat relationship with Recycled City. Tell us about that.
Yeah, with Recycled City, they basically we save not only all of our food scraps, but anything that's compostable. We even have napkins and cups and stuff that we use in the restaurant for our to-go supplies that can go in compost that are completely biodegradable, which is really, really cool. And it's really, really eye-opening when we're tracking it to see how much there is actually in a year, like almost 12 tons a year of food scrap or trimmings that might not be pretty enough to serve to a paying customer, but are can definitely be used for compost or for other means. And it's kind of a cool circle of life how they take the compost and they're gardening with it, and then hopefully it gets to a point where we can buy the vegetables that they're growing with our compost back.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really cool and unique relationship. But again, it was really eye-opening to see that number at the end of the year, how much carrot peels, tops of celery, trimmings of garlic and meat and fish and chicken bones, how much there actually is at the end of the year. It's really, really quite incredible. So it's nice to know that that's going to something that gives this food kind of an afterlife as opposed to just going in the trash.
Right. It's part of that closed loop.
Yeah, it's really, really, really cool.
So, Chef, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
and
for
thank
being
you,
here.
thank you so much for bringing all this lovely, again, locally grown produce. And I'm looking forward to eating here soon because I'm hungry, maybe after this.
Please do.
I hope to see you soon.
You bet. Thank
you
you
so much. Thank you. So that's it for another episode of Reimagine Phoenix. For more information about the initiative, please visit phoenix.gov/Reimagine Phoenix. Now remember to reduce, reuse, recycle, reconsider, and reimagine a more sustainable Phoenix. See you soon.